Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video I'll be going over two things. A leak list that recently appeared claiming to know about certain vehicles coming out in this coming patch, as well as what I think are the possible and likely planes to be released, as well as some planes I see being mentioned a lot, and finally, what has been confirmed. Of course, this will all be about aircraft, as this update will be largely focused on aviation. I thought about doing two videos, but instead I'll just do this one. That said, please like, comment, and subscribe, definitely for more content. But without further ado, let's get into it. So this is going to be a Chinese and Soviet heavy patch, as we can tell from the update's title of Red Skies, as well as the trailer and vehicles that have been mentioned thus far. As mentioned before, this is a very plane-oriented update as well. First, I'll rate the possibilities of each plane being added on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being least likely and 10 being the most, again for the first part of this video. Following this, I'll give a rundown on the quote-unquote leak list, and judge how likely each of the supposedly leaked aircrafts are. I'll start with the US and move through the Russians, the Chinese, and then various European planes. I'll also focus on planes I suspect will be ranked 6 and 7, otherwise this list and video could go on forever. This list is partially speculation, but also grounded in what is likely, what we've seen from the trailer and this update, and what has already been confirmed via the devblog announcements. So to start, let's go over the F111A, a rank 7, or at least I suspect it would be a rank 7 plane that I give around a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10 to be likely to appear in this patch. So it's kind of in between being definitely and being about halfway sure. This is the most likely addition to the US to start off rank 7, at least insofar as new planes to the game are concerned. It could carry over 31,000 pounds of bombs, fly at Mach 2.5, has variable sweep wings, and was pretty advanced for its time. The only problem with this is that, and as I'll go over soon, if the USSR or Chinese receive a certain rank 7 plane, which has already basically been confirmed, this would probably be pretty easy prey due to the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it never actually carried air-to-air missiles, at least in none of the operational variants. It also weighed more than 2 times as much as the MiG-23. Now, while I do think that there is a good chance, not a great, but a good chance that we'll see the F111 in this coming patch, I just don't know if it could be the only Tier 7 plane coming for the US. Basically, they'd have to force a second Tier 7 plane because this just would not be capable against fighting other Tier 7 planes or even some Tier 6 fighters. It just wouldn't have it in it. Again, the F111 would need another plane to supplement it just because the F111 has a lack of air-to-air capability. But that being said, for the next plane we have the F105 Thunder Chief, which is a fighter bomber that was prevalent in the Vietnam War, and this would likely be a rank 6, and I'm giving this a 3 out of 10 to appear in this patch. Now, while this isn't too crazy of a call and something that frankly I feel this should have been added a patch or two ago, it isn't something I could see being added in this patch just due to the sheer number of planes likely being added already, the focus being on the USSR and Chinese planes, and the fact that the US already has tons of planes that could fill this role, give or take, about as well. The F105 would almost seem like too much, especially considering its crazy loadout options, but this isn't the least likely option I've heard for a plane coming to this patch, especially amongst people really wishing for certain planes. Next, we have the F101 Voodoo and other Century Series planes that I've not already mentioned. These would likely all be about rank 6, and I give these about a 2 out of 10 for appearing in this patch. These are a 2 out of 10 for likeliness because Gaijin typically adds vehicles in big patches like this to increase the top BR, and then goes back to fill in the tech tree behind and around the new top BR vehicles in subsequent patches. While I wouldn't be too surprised if one gets through like the F105 or maybe the F101 Voodoo or the Delta Dart or whatever the case may be, I wouldn't count on more than a single plane from this series as coming to the game in this update. And for the next plane, I'll say the F6 Skyray, and this is a rank 6, and I'll give this a 2 out of 10. Though this would be an excellent addition to the game, there is such a glut of planes at around 9.3 or 9.7 for the US, which is where this would likely sit, and where it would offer no discernible improvement, and would just be an RP roadblock in the way of progressing further to top tier. It would have made sense to add this around 3 or 5 patches ago, when this would have been more competitive. Now it's just another plane, albeit, in my opinion, a really cool plane. Next we have the F4J or F4G Wild Weasel, and I think these are about 8 out of 10 in terms of likeliness and would likely sit at rank 6 or even possibly early rank 7. I think that, as has been the trend in top tier and ground and air tech trees, We will see the top vehicles just get more and more advanced variants until Gaijin has to develop totally new models for planes because they've exhausted the variants for certain planes. These both are more advanced variants, with the J being an advancement of the B variant and the G being a mix of electronic warfare and ground attack. In this regard, I think the J is more likely because Gaijin would need to introduce more missile types in-game for the F4G Wild Weasel to be accurate, as well as possibly an electronic warfare suite. So for the last 3 planes in this list, and these are again just planes that I've heard a lot of buzz about and, you know, people really wanting, or whatever the case may be. The last 3 are for the Americans, and they're kind of really long shot crazy planes that I do not think are coming, but here we go. So first we have the A-10. That is a rank 7, possibly even a rank 8 plane if that ever comes out, and I give this like a 1.25 out of 10 to come out in this patch. Not only are these incredible close air support planes, but they are so advanced compared to everything else in the game that they would be leagues better than any close air support currently in War Thunder, including the already amazing A7D and the soon-to-be F5c and whatever variants that has. I would love to see this or the YA9, but those are not coming out anytime soon, possibly not even by 2022's end. And next for the list of crazy planes that I do not think are coming out in this patch, we have the F14 Tomcat, something people have wanted for years and years and years and years. This would likely be a rank 7, but maybe even a rank 8, and we're all fooling ourselves into thinking that's going to come out soon. I give this like a 1.5, maybe a 2 out of 10 for coming out in this patch. While there is some glimmer of hope that the Tomcat is coming to War Thunder with this coming patch, I just don't see it happening. It would be an absolutely huge leap forward for planes. Unless we skip all the way to MiG-29s or something similar, it would have no adversaries in the game, nothing that could even compete. Even the likely addition of the MiG-23 would hardly be more difficult to beat than, for example, a top-level variant of the F4 Phantom II that isn't even in War Thunder yet. Plus, a recent post from War Thunder community managers in a forum stated that the F14 and MiG-29 are not coming in this patch, so if you believe that, then it's safe to say that we will not be seeing the F14 for at least a few months in the minimum, but possibly not through the end of this year or even longer, unfortunately. And now for the last of the crazy planes I think possibly might be coming to the US, but really are just suggestions and people wanting these planes. It's the B-58 Hustler, and this would probably be a rank 7, definitely a supersonic bomber, and I'll give this like a 2, maybe a 2.25 out of 10 for being likely to come in this patch. Now, while War Thunder is in need of supersonic bombers, don't get me wrong, they just don't fit the game at top tier, as all bombers are basically just sitting ducks waiting to be destroyed. Again, this is worse at top tier. Though being supersonic would definitely help, especially with how fast this thing is, I just don't know if we'll see too many of these types of planes added, especially when an F-105, for example, F4, Sukhoi 17, or any number of planes could deliver a strike accurately without being such a big, costly target. The only reason why I give this a chance is because we're getting a somewhat lesser bomber/interceptor version of this, well, not really a version, but a somewhat lesser bomber or interceptor plane coming to the USSR in this patch, and I'll go over that in just a second. Finally, for the most boring and pretty much confirmed planes for the US tech tree, well, we have the definitely confirmed F5c, which will be a rank 6 Premium. Again, I give this a 10 out of 10 because it is confirmed. This is a premium variant of the F5A, except that it will be in use with the US and will have access only up to AIM-9E missiles for anti-air missiles. And the F5E, which would be a rank 7 or a rank 6 plane. I give this like an 8.5, maybe even a 9 out of 10 for how likely it is to come to the game in this patch. And this is fairly likely as the F5C is already coming to the US tech tree, and the E variant is just an overall upgrade that would possibly be able to compete against higher BR opponents. There is historical precedent for this too, as Gaijin has released premium downgraded versions of planes, again as premiums, only to release their more advanced versions being researchable, such as the Harrier GR1 and the GR3. And now for the Soviets, the MiG-23, and this is probably almost definitely 100% going to be a rank 7. And this is like a 9.75 or a 10 out of 10 for confirmed. And this is, again, all been confirmed in the trailer, as you can see in this photo. It would make much more sense as a logical step forward from the MiG-21 BIS to the MiG-23, as opposed to going, for example, from an F4 directly to an F14. This is likely going to be the top dog in the Soviet air tech tree, and it will be interesting to see what else will be announced that could possibly counter it. I have heard some talk of the F5E as being the top US fighter that will counter this plane. This would be silly, but I guess it is possible. Next, we have the Yakovlev Yak 28, which has been confirmed in the trailer. 10 out of 10, this is confirmed again in the trailer and will likely be in the bomber role based again on what is shown in the trailer. This plane also served as an interceptor in electronic warfare and in recon roles. Although unless War Thunder changes how air combat is played substantially or how close air support is played, I doubt the recon role will come into play for this plane in War Thunder. And next we have the MiG-27, which would be a rank 7, and I give this maybe like a 5 out of 10, probably like a 4.5, maybe even a 4 out of 10 for how likely it is to come to this patch. And this is a ground attack version of the pretty much already confirmed MiG-23. It was introduced to the Soviet Air Force around 6 years before the Sukhoi 25 Frogfoot and would likely be the top tier attacker for the Soviets. It's not too much of an offshoot for the MiG-23 where it isn't believable that it could be added in this update, nor is it so overpowered that it couldn't be added right now. A plane like this is the natural progression from the current Sukhoi 17 M2. Interestingly though, if this plane is added, it will be a second tier 7 plane for the USSR, and as such, I'd wonder what the US could get to even the score. The F111 is kinda like a much heavier version of this plane and quite a bit faster, but with much less versatility. If the USSR receives both this and the MiG-23 and some other combination of tier 7 planes, then that could open the door to numerous tier 7 planes coming out for both the US and USSR, and possibly numerous tier 7s coming out for other countries too. And next, we have the Sukhoi 25 Frogfoot. This is just a fan favorite, so that's why I'm putting it on this list. It would likely be a rank 7. I'm giving this like a 1.5 out of 10 to actually come to the game in this patch. This wouldn't be as big of a jump as, let's say, the A-10 from what is currently in the US tech tree, as its payload and general capabilities just aren't quite as high as the A-10, but it's still an excellent close air support plane. The Sukhoi 25 is simply too advanced to come out right now. Also, there's just no need for it. And finally, we have the Sukhoi 7 BMK, which is a rank 6. This is a premium, and it's 10 out of 10 for being confirmed because it is confirmed, and it will be the highest BR premium upon release for the Soviet air tech tree. And now for China, we have the Shenyang J8, which is likely going to be a rank 6 or rank 7 plane. It's an interceptor, and I give it like a 6.5, maybe a 7 out of 10 for how likely it is to come in this patch. Now, it's difficult to say if this will join the fray, but with China needing more oomph at the top levels of their tech tree, and this plane providing it, I don't really see a reason why it wouldn't be. Just because it's a logical step forward for their tech tree. It's a top speed of over Mach 2 and could carry short-range air-to-air missiles. Ultimately, it's difficult for me to say with much accuracy or even with an educated guess what I expect China to have in this patch. I expect that they will receive more licensed-built variants of Soviet planes, such as an advanced variant of the J7 like the J7E or even the JH7, though I think that last one is a bit of a stretch just because the JH7 is a nasty, nasty fighter bomber. It's actually fairly modern compared to almost everything else in War Thunder. And now finally, let's just go over the European countries before I get into that leak list, so to speak. And I'll just start off with the Sea Vixen FAW2. This is a 10 out of 10. It's definitely confirmed. It's a British premium, sit at rank 5, and will be a multi-role aircraft without cannons or MGs. And now let's get into the more speculative planes, like the Panavia Tornado. This would likely be a rank 7, possibly a rank 8, and sits at, well, I'm going to give it like a 1.25 out of 10 for coming out anytime in the next year. This plane is ridiculously unlikely to see its arrival in this patch, as it is extremely advanced, and just compared to other planes in War Thunder, it would immediately take over as the best multi-role / ground attack plane in-game, barring a surprise plane coming to this patch. Now, while it is possible, technically speaking, just like it's possible to get the Lancer into this game, I just really rate this thing as highly unlikely. Next, we have the IAR-23 and the J-22. These would likely be rank 6, but possibly rank 7 just because they're more modern, their electronics are a little bit more modern. I give these ones like a 1 out of 10 as well for coming into the game. Now, while these are awesome planes and largely they're the same plane minus some technical differences, they really have no home currently in War Thunder, as they are Romanian and Yugoslavian in origin. One could make an argument for these to be tier 6 premium attack aircraft for Germany, for example, just due to the East Germans existing and being part of the tech tree for Germany, or the USSR, but I don't see these planes coming anytime soon, and likely not before we see some sort of independent Warsaw Bloc tech tree. And now for the final plane, possibly the most likely of the planes to come in this patch, but even still it's really unlikely, is the Saab 37 Viggen. It's a rank 7, and I give this like a 3 out of 10 to maybe come in this patch. Actually, you know what? 3 out of 10 to come by the end of the year. It is extremely difficult to say when this will arrive, but knowing Gaijin, they'll likely make a themed update that will herald the Vigen's arrival, probably one of the centerpiece planes in that update. I think it would be competitive as an early tier 7 jet, possibly even if it were mid tier 7, but I just don't see it as being likely to come out now. It would work well likely against the planes in this update, but give it a few updates and maybe it'll find its place. It's just that a smaller nation like this isn't really priority, and as such, I don't think that Gaijin will really be putting too much effort into it. At least not for now. And now for the part of this video that I'm actually really excited to go over, that is that supposedly leaked plane and just vehicle list. And I'll just be going over the planes here, or more so the most interesting planes on this list. So I'll start off with the Bf109G6 for Finland, and well, for Sweden really, but it's a Finnish Bf109G6. And I think that this will probably come to the game. It makes sense as a premium. It would really feel around the 5.0, 5.3 if I'm not mistaken. BR rating for Sweden, and they could really use it. I mean, it's a heck of a plane, a lot of versatility, really good, and it would sell a lot. So I think that this will be likely coming to the game. And again, there is the historical precedent there. Next, we have the C-Vixen, which we've already confirmed. The F4F late, very, very likely. The F4E, or the, my apologies, the F4F early has already come to the game for the Germans. It is now a marketplace vehicle, but it was earned via an event. And Gaijin themselves did say that the F4E, or the, my apologies, the F4F late would be coming at some point or another. And it would just make sense that it comes in this patch. And, you know, thus far, these have been really, really stupid and just easy to pick apart. You know, sort of quote-unquote leaks. Next, we have the F5c Premium. Again, that's already been confirmed. The F5e USA, I think that this is likely that we will be getting it. And again, the reason being is because there is the historical precedent for it. The Harrier GR1 and the GR3, the Yak 38 variants, if I'm not mistaken, also. So there is the precedent for that, especially in recent War Thunder history, so to speak. Next, we have the F5e AIDC. So they did spell it a little bit incorrectly here. It's the AIDC, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a Taiwanese variant of the F5e. And I think that that's likely to come in the game as well. This could also help to kind of bridge the gap for the Chinese, rather than giving them some like crazy tier 7 you know, planes. This would probably be a base level tier 7, or like at worst a top level tier 6 plane. And possibly the A7E. I like how he says maybe here, because if this was a leak list, you know if this plane is going to be coming. Maybe, you know, I don't know. This just, that maybe just kind of throws it off for me. I could see it coming to the game, kind of like how we have the A4B and the A4E. And the A4, or the A7E would just be an improvement, if I'm not mistaken. It has just better weaponry, or is it a better engine? I would just have to look that up real quick, but it is very possible, probably like a 10-point set or 10.3 BR plane. Next, we have the MD454 Mystera 4A. Again, I think that this is definitely possible. This would serve as a really interesting, you know, higher BR fighter for the French, and it's something that I would say that they probably could benefit from, just because they really don't have a ton right there at the top. And, you know, to be fair, it'd be a really cool plane. I think it also has some air-to-air rockets that would be coming out of a certain, an expandable pouch, whatever you want to call it, that would drop down from a tray that would drop down from the plane. So definitely a cool plane. Next, we have the MiG-23M. I'm not really sure of the variant coming to the game, but almost 100% the MiG-23 has been confirmed. So this is probably likely. The P-51C-11. This is very possible as well. I mean, the Japanese did actually capture a P-51C-11. There is a plane, or a picture with the Japanese with this plane. I think that this would be possible. I mean, it would give people playing the Japanese tech tree the option to play an American plane that they might be familiar with. So yeah, why not? Next, we have the Sukhoi 7 BMK. That's already been confirmed. The Yak 28B. That's basically 100% been confirmed because of the trailer. Next, we have the J7E. I think I mentioned that before. It's very likely that that's going to be added to the game, just because it would really expand China's their capabilities at the top. Probably be a 10.7 maybe BR, 10.3 to 10.7. I don't really see them making it an 11.0, but heck, it could be a tier 7 plane. And, you know, finally, just one other thing that I want to mention. They mentioned the USSR cruiser Vora Shilov. Again, that's already in the game. I think the Leopard, if I'm not mistaken, was it? That's already in the game as well, or it's there. The new premium UK ship is also, you know, being already added to the game. It's already been confirmed. So this is kind of a little bit of a weird leak list, and something that, in my opinion, I don't really know if I can trust it. I mean, these leak lists have had spotty results in the past, to say the least. And, you know, for the most part, it's like, yeah, you're going to get 1 or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 vehicles correct in these leak lists. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, I really just do not see a lot of these things maybe coming to the game. Or, you know what, if they do come to the game, maybe it's because they have an informed opinion and this time it's right. But just generally speaking, I don't trust leak lists. Just a slight correction for what I just said. It's actually the HMS Liverpool that will be coming to the game, not the Leopard. Well, confirmed at least. And it will be a squadron vehicle. But either way, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Really makes my day. You guys are the best. And I love you all forever. But that being said, see you all on the other side. And, well, I wish you all the best. Take care, everyone.